Get ready to take a flamethrower to the official narrative and learn what the elites don't want you to know. You're listening to The Tom Woods Show.
Hey everybody, Tom Woods here, episode 2549 of The Tom Woods Show with our old friend Scott Horton. You know Scott from a million different places. You know him from his books, Enough Already on the War on Terror and Fool's Errand on Afghanistan. There's more too. There's your edited volumes are great. The one that's not out yet that we're going to tease people about a little bit, we're going to talk about today also. But how long have you had a hand over at antiwar.com?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Oh, by the way, welcome.
Yeah. I've been at antiwar.com. I think I started palling around with them. Well, I first interviewed Alan Bach in 2003. And then I think I started becoming an assistant editor in 2004, at the beginning of 2004, right at the time I was founding the bumper sticker company.
So you realize it's 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
My first articles, I don't think were until 2005.
Okay.
But I think I was doing some work for Eric and Justin then in 2004.
Obviously, you have the Scott Horton show, and I think before that, you had the Weekend Interview show. So you've been doing this for a long time, way, way longer than Old Woods here. So
I started doing pirate radio in 98.
Oh, yeah. Was that in Austin?
Yeah, on Free Radio Austin.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your service, my friend.
All
right. Look, we have to say a little something about a great milestone that you've recently reached, even though we can't get into it in detail because we want to wait for the actual release. But it would be ridiculous for me not to tell people this. And you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be the one who tells them because you're the one who's put in all the work. So what have you just accomplished?
Well, I don't know if it's all the way accomplished yet, but I'm very close. Very, very close to finishing Provoked, how Washington started the new Cold War with Russia and the catastrophe in Ukraine. In fact, I have it here.
You
first
do?
Copy. Here for the video audience here.
Okay, we can compare them.
You can see it's Enough Already was 6x9. Provoked is 7x10 and about an inch thicker. It's a monster, but it's everything that Bush, Clinton, Obama, Trump, and Biden, and of course John McCain ever did to provoke the new Cold War with Russia, which is a lot.
Well, if it makes people feel better, a lot of it, not a majority, but a lot of it's footnotes, so it's not as intimidating as it looks.
That's true. In fact, I have more footnotes even than I've done interviews, 6,100 footnotes.
Wow, okay.
I'm not quite, I think I'm just short of 6,100 interviews now. So, but yes, it is literally 70 pages of footnotes.
Okay.
So the final version will be something like 660, something like that.
Okay. All right. So as I say, I don't want to take the wind out of the sails by talking about it and promoting it now when it's not available to be gotten. So we'll do that when the time comes. But still, as I told you before, it can't hurt to build some buzz and get some excitement going for this. So maybe you could just say, like, even if all you did was bring together in one space a lot of quotations and this, that, and the other thing, that just it's convenient to have them all together, that would be an accomplishment. But do you feel like you've stumbled upon stuff that that a lot of people don't know at all, stuff they've never heard before, insights that even the people we might ordinarily trust don't seem to have access to?
Probably not. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot in there on a lot of different subjects. So you could be, like really good on Ukraine, but not know much about Bosnia. Or you could be really good on the color-coded revolutions, but not know much about the current war or whatever. So I hope I'm good on all these different things, in one place for you. But like if you read my Kosovo chapter, I hope you'll be like, oh, that was good. But I doubt that you'll say, oh, I understand that so much better than after I read those other chapters about Kosovo I've read before, or what, you know what I mean? Like, it's comparable to Bovard. Bovard has a great chapter on Kosovo in Feeling Your Pain. And I feel like my chapter is about comparable to that, which is good enough for me. You know what I mean? So,
Well, the
I
fact
hope
that
it's okay.
well, the fact that you're telling the story at such a level where you would even have a chapter on that is significant.
Well, you might find this the flaw in the book, but it is comprehensive. I mean, I talk about the failed, weird, fake coup in Montenegro in 2016 and everything. I mean, it is all in there. So, I have an entire chapter on Russiagate, an entire chapter on Bosnia, Kosovo, Clinton and Bush supporting the terrorists in Chechnya. There's a lot of bin Ladenites in here. America's always playing, this is in enough already. We're always playing this double game with the terrorists. Well, a lot of that's because of Russia. Ever since, going back to the Afghan war in the 80s, but all through, I don't know if you remember, in Enough Already, I sort of barely mentioned that, Bill Clinton backed the bad guys the whole time they were bombing us throughout the 1990s. He was still backing them in Bosnia, Kosovo, and Chechnya. Well, I have massive sections on those claims now. I developed those claims much further than I did in Enough Already, explaining, how that treason ended up getting so many Americans killed on September 11th.
Well, I kept thinking, I don't want to say I kept fearing, because we all would like to see the war come to an end. But I just kept thinking, Scott is working so hard on this book. And if by the time the book comes out, the war is long over, it's still a testament and it's still a valuable resource for people in the future. But it won't pack the punch that it would have otherwise. And it turns out I was foolish to be worried about that, because the thing is still dragging on.
Yeah. Well, I've had a real hard time like conceiving about where I am in the process, how close I am to having it done and whatever. I was thinking, geez, I hope I get it done in time for your cruise next February. I hope I get it done in time for the inauguration. And then I'm like, well, maybe I can get it done in time for Santa Claus. But now the plan is to have it done like the second week in October. It should be for sale like very soon here. And I was thinking even that I would put it off until like the day after the election, so I know who's going to win and I know which last chapter to include there and whatever. And then I just said, nah, man, you know what? Like, I'm close enough now with the edit. I hope I can have this thing out for 3 or 4 weeks before the election and possibly have some effect on the conversation involved. I don't really know. Us libertarians don't have that much juice. But if the book hits hard and gets some attention on a bigger level, if some prominent people retweet it or whatever, and it really gets out there, I hope that maybe it could be part of the conversation for a few weeks here before the vote.
Well, I'd like to see Tucker interview you. I think there is a non-trivial possibility of that happening.
I have reason to believe that is a possibility. And that's one of the reasons I'm in such a hurry here, because I thought, well, if I can get him to interview me about Enough Already, that'd be great. But if I could put the new book in his hand and get on that show before the election, well, for my purposes, most importantly, before Christmas. But if I could get on there before the election and actually have a part of the conversation, the public conversation about what we're doing with this war before the election, then, that would really be great. And it's unbelievable to me that the Democrats are running on this war. I don't know if you saw it, man. It was the craziest thing. Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mattei had this thing on their show. They showed a clip that the Democrats are running in Pennsylvania. And it's the most warmongering thing you've ever seen. And it begins by saying that America used to always stand up to Russia's communist dictators, but not Donald Trump. He wants to bow down and do whatever Putin says, blah, blah, blah. And the point is, there are a lot of Poles, a lot of ethnic Poles that live in Pennsylvania. And they're saying, Donald Trump wants to let Russia invade and destroy Poland. Are you going to let him do that? And this is like an important swing state, So the Democrats are playing hardball, running on the war. And of course, who knows whether Trump is up to even talking back to them on the same level they're even talking. But I want to go ahead and chime in then. This is the one thing, well, other than North Korea, this is the thing that he's best on. He says he'd forget winning the war. He wants to end the war. He wants to negotiate it into the war as soon as possible. And, Donald Trump says a lot of things, and I don't know how well he'll follow through on that, but I believe him that that's what he wants to see. And that makes him George Washington compared to Pol Pot up against this Kamala Harris, who, after all, isn't she, Tom, running as Biden? She's running as another demented, checked out, empty suit at a desk, and Jake Sullivan's going to decide, right? That's who she's running to be, is the president by committee, just like it is right now. With these people, there's no accountability. Nothing they say makes any sense whatsoever, and their policies are edging us closer to thermonuclear war. So I'll take Donald Trump 100 times over compared to that. I don't care how much of an Israeli spy he is, which he is, which is disgraceful.
Well, and of course, they're campaigning on where this is going to be a campaign of change. Look, okay, not only are you the vice president, your party's been in power for 12 of the past 16 years, and there is the least possibility of change. You are going to get so much of the same old thing from these people. It's unbelievable. Now, with Trump, maybe I might get that too, but I don't exactly know what I'll get. I know absolutely what I'll get. I know it's a little bit overdone. I think that it's weird that her website, I don't know if it still doesn't have any policy positions on it. I mean, that is very odd. But if you're wondering what it's going to look like, just look at the past 4 years. It's just going to be a repeat of that with the same people driving events, the same people advising, it's the same of everything. There's not going to be any disruption. The military-industrial complex will continue as before. We know about that. Now, with Trump, I do feel like he's a little bit, he does say he wants to end this thing, but I don't have any details on what he wants to do exactly or what his proposal is. And, here and there, you get these hints that he's kind of wink at. I mean, for a while, his complaint was that the Europeans aren't paying enough. We're the ones paying so much for this Ukraine war. And the European, well, okay, that's like argument number 3,871, but that's not the main one that you make. But as you say, compared to them, I guess he's better. But what makes me happy is when Tulsi, and I understand your position about RFK Jr., but he's very good on Ukraine. When Tulsi and RFK stood up there with him, giving their endorsements, one of the things they said was, we're glad to have somebody who's not just going to rubber stamp the warmongers. And so he had to stand there and listen to that. The reason I'm getting these endorsements is that people think I'm not just going to be trigger happy, rushing into war like the rest of the establishment. So one assumes this penetrated the old noodle at some point.
Yeah, and I guess there's a not insignificant chance that Gabbard could become the defense secretary or something like that. And I'm very torn about her. I really do respect her because she's extremely intelligent. She went to the war. She was very brave in standing up against the dirty war in Syria because she remembered who were the bad guys from last time. And, they absolutely raked her over the coals for that. But she's so bad on the Sunnis and the Shiites, right? Like she's bad on the Bin Ladenites and Iran. She's completely just slavishly devoted to Israel, as bad as any of them. And so, she does seem to really care a lot about wanting to get along with Russia and China. And so I guess I kind of don't care about anything else compared to that, Tom. I don't know. Thermal nukes are everything. Iran doesn't have nukes. Even the worst war with Iran wouldn't mean I got to give up my hometown, and die in it myself too. So, look, it's just the Democrats are so horrible right now. They might as well have just burned Waco yesterday to me. I'm so pissed. It's like George Bush after he lied us into war in Iraq. They must be punished. They must be removed from power. After Russiagate, after the Ukraine war, after sitting and rubber stamping this absolutely horrific slaughter in the Gaza Strip for the last year, which I know Trump is even worse than the Democrats on Israel, but it's probably the only thing he's worse than them on. And they're just, I never had to deal with such lies in my whole life. And I've been interested in politics since the Reagan years and Iran-Contra when I was 10 or something. But I've never seen anything like the level of BS out of these people, and they must be made to suffer for it.
Hey, everybody, one of the best events of the year is coming up, and I'm so excited to tell you about it. It's put on by my friend Mikkel Thorpe. It's the world's largest offshore event taking place entirely online from October 7th to 11th. Mikkel is host of the Expat Money Show, a multiple-time Tom Woods Show guest, and a highly sought-after expat consultant with over 2 decades of experience. Discover why international diversification is a must for those looking to preserve their liberty and wealth. Learn everything you need to know about crafting your perfect Plan B, how to quickly acquire a second passport, diversify your finances offshore, invest in international real estate, and get in-depth insights on geopolitics from world-renowned experts. And guess what? Ol' Woods here is going to be making a presentation at the Expat Money Summit, along with other names you'll be familiar with like Mark Faber, Doug Casey, Ron Paul, and more. To reserve your complimentary ticket, head over to expatmoneysummit.com. That's expatmoneysummit.com. Yeah, unfortunately, the range of opinion on Ukraine is very narrow. And I know you're talking about well beyond just Ukraine, but that is the subject of your book primarily. And I am fearful that most people think either it's the Harris position or it's Russian propaganda. And so it's hard to crack through.
Well, and the thing is about her, I get so angry at people. I'm so glad. Thank you, by the way, Tom, for interviewing Daryl Cooper. I get so angry when people are just so uncharitable in their interpretations of what other people say.
Yeah.
And try to demonize and jump on the thing. And I got a great example of that. When I first heard the Kamala Harris quote about Russia and Ukraine, I said, that's fake. Come on, that can't be real. And then I saw it was actually pretty widely reported in all these different places. And I thought, oh, okay, well, so she said that, but come on, that's out of context. She must have been talking to some children or something, right? And then you're just pretending this was her statement, but she's clearly like addressing some 5th graders or something. And then no, I come to find out it really was as bad as in the accusations. She was talking to grown adults on an AM radio show in Chicago and told them Russia is a big country and it's next to a little country called Ukraine. And they're both countries in Europe. And the bigger country invaded the little country. And the thing is, if you listen to that quote, you can listen to it. That was what they told her this morning, right? That was her briefing that she was repeating to them. Ukraine is a country in Europe. It's next to a bigger country called Russia. And so they had her memorize that. And then she went on to this radio show. And then this is how she explained the war. And they're running her for president of the United States right now, and people are buying this. Can you imagine? This is the person who's calling the shots, is someone who either had never heard of Ukraine or probably like most Americans assumed it was just a region of Russia anyway before this war, who clearly doesn't know the first thing about it. And they're going to have her be the president of the United States? Fine, let her be the vice president. Who cares? That doesn't mean anything. And Tom, I probably have told you this before. I've always been like this. Anytime someone leans to the left or to the right because they hate the other side more, I can sympathize with that. Both sides have lots of problems. And depending where you are in life, you might just be repelled by one and feel closer to the other. But, however, fully buying in to Kamala Harris, this wonderful, brilliant woman is going to lead us into the future and all of this stuff. You got tens of millions, maybe more, maybe better than 100 million Americans are loving this. They think she's great. She's neck and neck. And look, Donald Trump has his problems. And I can see why if you're not a Trump guy, you ain't never going to be. And I mean, geez, he's so flawed. We could spend the rest of the show talking about the guy's flaws. But still, how does that translate into a belief in her? This woman who's fit to wash the dishes at the restaurant. She couldn't even be the cook. She's the dumbest person. She's unbelievable that they would. And look, remember the conversation this whole time leading up to this was, well, I guess they're stuck with Biden. They have to run him because they can't run her. And yet they can't overthrow her because she's the first female black vice president and all this. The Democratic Party, they can't just overthrow her and throw Newsom in there. But it's got to be Biden because he can't step down and they can't run her. And that was the consensus on the Democratic side too. What are we going to do? We can't run her. Maybe we'll have, remember they had all these news stories in the early summer, all these proposals. Maybe we'll have Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and Taylor Swift do a little mini primary at the convention where they pick between 6 people. Remember all that? Because everybody just accepted that it can't possibly be her. There's no way that we could put enough lipstick on this pig to make the people believe it. And here we are. I'm looking at the polls in the news this morning. You look at Real Clear Politics polling averages and whatever. I'm going to blow my brains out. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it is the, and you know, you and I have been around for roughly the same amount of time. We've seen a lot of stupidity and we've seen a lot of dopes in politics and stupidity among the electorate. But this absolutely takes the cake.
Yeah. And the tone of her voice. How can anyone stand that? It's like nails on a blackboard to me. I cringe myself into just total implosion. I cannot take it, man. I cannot take it. I tried to watch the debate. I turned it off after like half an hour. That's it. TV's staying off for the next 4 years.
And being that enthusiastic for her, you are in effect saying, I'm really happy with how things are going. I'm thrilled. I hope we have a more energetic version of how things have been going. You know, someone who's a little younger, and that's what we need is more energy put into all these decisions. I mean, it's interesting that so many people are happy with how things have been going, but I don't know why you would be. I don't understand it.
I mean, and especially running on the war the way that they are, like he said, it's 20 years since 2004, right? The Kerry race where he lost because he didn't oppose the war enough. And so Bush, who supported the war that everybody was against, won the election because the Democrats were too weak.
Yeah.
And now look at them out ahead, attacking the right from the right, not in the Horton rule way, but in the very worst way, calling Trump a wimp and a hippie for not being willing to kill enough Russians. It's completely insane. And to think the liberal Democrats and leftists and progressives and whoever, they're going to line up and vote for this, running on a proxy war with Russia. I want to say on their border. It's not even on their border. It's inside their country right now, a couple of 100 miles from Moscow.
Well, can we say a little something about that? What's the deal with this firing storm shadows into Russia thing?
Yeah, well, so these are longer range missiles, and we know for a fact from this German leak of these generals that came out that we have British, I guess, special operations forces or spies, I guess probably special operations forces in the country helping fire the missiles. They're really complicated long range missiles, and they can't even be fired without Western help, without Western expertise. And so, one, they're talking about expanding the range of the targets that they're hitting inside Russia. And two, in a way where NATO is quite literally complicit in it. And last week, Putin warned that this would mean war between NATO and Russia, and implied, I guess, that London's up for grabs. And then, you know, the news was they backed down, actually, that you know, they had said, oh, they're going to give Ukraine permission, they're going to give them permission, they're going to give them permission. And then the New York Times said that Biden was reluctant to do it, that Biden himself was the logjam.
Yeah.
He said, no, I don't want to do this, man. This is too much of a risk. And I think that probably reflects that CIA told him that like, hey, man, this time when Russia said that, like, oh, yeah, well, maybe we'll just bomb Warsaw, which that's not a quote, but when they said, hey, this would mean war with NATO, that maybe Burns took this seriously and advised Biden that, man, we should not be doing this. And now Zelensky is in town and says he has his plan for victory that he's going to explain before Biden and Harris and explain to them why, if they only give him some more weapons and more money and more support, that he'll be able to win this war, which is a complete crock. I mean, they're in the middle, they're right about to lose the last of Donetsk right now, as they're on some fool's errand inside Kursk, inside Russia, which is insane. It's not exactly the Cuban Missile Crisis because America didn't put nukes in Ukraine, and the Russians are not threatening nuclear war if we don't get our nukes out of Ukraine, right? So the metaphor is not perfect. However, this is by far the highest tensions have been between America and Russia since 1962. This blows away 1983 and the Able Archer exercise and all the Reagan's threats and misunderstandings and all that from 83 that almost led to nuclear war then. But the level of tension is way higher than that. And I'm not saying like it's a better than 50-50 chance that there's going to be nuclear war. But you know what? I interviewed Lyle Goldstein, the expert who was at the Naval War College. And he said that the CIA says that there's going to be a better than 50% chance that Russia will resort to using nuclear weapons in this war. That's what the American intelligence is saying right now, that it's more than 50% chance. Now, I don't know how you quantify that. I'm just telling you it's higher than it was, and that is absolutely unacceptable. How in the world is the American people tolerating this? Are the American people tolerating this? How is this not the one and only issue of the election? And how is Trump not absolutely destroying the Democrats based on this? And they could...
Based on a million things.
Yeah. And they could kill our whole civilization in one day. That's not hyperbole. They could kill every major city in our country. It would be... And in a nuclear war, if a nuclear war started, it would almost certainly devolve to general nuclear war. Now, this is some place where Lyle Goldstein disagrees. He thinks there could be a limited nuclear war. Everything I've ever read about it says once they start going off, they shoot them all off because you use them or lose them. They're going to take out your nukes in your silos if you don't launch them. So go ahead and launch them. And then we all die. Every country every city in Europe and the United States erased off the face of the earth, and including Russia. Hundreds of millions of people killed. Everything our civilization has worked to build for 3,000 years, completely destroyed. Gone. For nothing. For who is sovereign over Dnipropetrovsk?
Folks, sometimes we have more choices than we think we do. We think we have to deal with people and companies that hate us. But what are we going to do, right? I mean, that's the only choice we have, but not always. Take big tech, for example. Google, Microsoft, Apple, they're all engaging in shenanigans with your private data. And if you care about that, you can avoid that by not using their so-called free tools. Instead, check out Federated Computer. They offer a full replacement for Google, Microsoft Office 365, Slack, Zoom, all the tools of big tech you can't live without, but designed for people who care about privacy, don't want to be treated like cattle, and want a great price. Everything's encrypted end-to-end, fully backed up daily. We're talking about private email, file storage, group chat, WordPress, all the applications you need for your business or team, all bundled into one easy monthly subscription that's 10 times less expensive than big tech offerings. You get unlimited users, fantastic personal customer support from real human beings, and the assurance that your data is your data and not big tech's. Visit www.federated.computer for your free 30-day trial and use coupon code WOODS for 10% off your first 6 months. So how about that? A company that thinks its job is to provide you with services for a great price, rather than spy on you or shut you up or manipulate you. Take your first step with other Happy Woods listeners towards digital freedom. Visit www.federated.computer today for your free 30-day trial and use coupon code WOODS for 10% off your first 6 months. I want to ask you, you remember when we were out on your boat? We visited you out in Austin some months ago, and you took us out on your boat. We had a great time. But in case anybody out there is curious, what gets talked about on Scott Horton's boat? And it will not surprise you to learn that one of the things that got talked about was a possible scenario by which a nuclear war could break out. And you were telling me about Annie Jacobson's book, Nuclear War, A Scenario, which I tried to get her on and I was unsuccessful. But I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you recall that conversation and you're familiar enough with her, what she laid out there, could
Sure.
you, because it seemed eerily plausible. I mean, it wasn't some wild scenario that she was putting forth there. Can you just give us the basic description of it?
Yeah. And I feel like such a heel too, because I read that book and poached a few notes for my book. And I didn't realize it was one of those where they hide all the notes in the back and they don't have numbers on them. They just reference the text.
I hate those.
I hate that.
Why would you do that?
It's done.
It's harder on the author too.
I
It's
know,
harder on the author
worse.
and the reader.
Some poor intern probably had to do it. But the thing is, I got to the end of the book before I realized I could have been poaching footnotes the whole time. There was a bunch of stuff in there I could have poached. And then I'm like, wow, I'm not going to read it twice. And I stupidly, because I'm writing a book, it didn't occur to me that I should also be taking notes to interview her on my show, because I do a show. But yeah, no, those neurons don't interface with each other or whatever. So I did not. And I didn't interview her either. But I did read the book, and it's really great. I highly recommend it for people who are not familiar. Basically what it is it's a fictional scenario of a nuclear war between America and Russia that is based on interviews with all of the top experts in the country. So everything that happens is totally plausible. It's exactly how the war game says, and this and that. And she's interviewed secretaries of defense, CIA chiefs, the head of Strategic Air Command, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what the book is based on. And how it starts is nobody really knows why, but North Korea nukes the United States with 2 nukes. And that's important because once it's 2 nukes, then that means that we have to nuke North Korea off the face of the earth, or they're going to keep nuking us. So America then launches 50 H-bombs from subs and from land-based silos at North Korea. The problem is the nukes have to go over Russia to get to North Korea. And the Russians see a massive incoming salvo coming over the pole, and they think it's aimed at them. Now, they know that it was North Korea that nuked us, and probably we're just going to nuke North Korea back. But they also know that America does nothing but lie about Russia all the time. And that you see what they're doing. They're nuking us, and then they're just going to tell their people that we were the ones who nuked them, not North Korea. So the president of Russia hits his big red button and launches thousands of nukes at the United States. And once America sees that they're coming, America then launches 1,000 back. And it's that what they call 975 aim points, targets across Russia, 1,000 targets across Russia. And then Russia launches everything they have at Europe and the United States. And then we all die. And that's it. Everybody's dead. Our entire civilization's destroyed. And it's because they wouldn't let Trump make a deal with Kim Jong-un. Remember, he wanted to make a deal with Kim, but he had his Israeli handler, John Bolton, as national security advisor, who, I don't know what Israel cares about this, but John Bolton is absolutely horrifying on North Korea. It's his fault they have nuclear weapons in the first place because of what he did in 2002 to force them out of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And Trump brought him with him to, I forget if it was to Saigon or to Singapore or one of those. And Bolton ruined the deal. And they were not able to get it done. And the Democrats, remember, the Democrats subpoenaed his lawyer to testify against him right when he's meeting with Kim, so that his attention would be divided. And then all on TV, they had this massive propaganda campaign. You got to admire them the way they do this. The same way they did the 2 Minutes Hate against Daryl Cooper. They did this with Donald Trump. They said, Kim is going to take such advantage of Trump. He's going to walk all over Trump. Trump is the worst negotiator in world history. Trump's going to give away the whole store. Well, we're talking about North Korea and the United States. What do we have to lose? Right? Nothing. What is Kim going to take from America in exchange for ratcheting down tensions with South Korea and the threat of nuclear war between our country and theirs? And they do have missiles that can reach DC now. I'm not sure if they can marry their nukes to them yet, but they have at least tens of nuclear weapons and missiles that have the range to get to Washington, DC. And it just doesn't have to be this way at all. We could have negotiated peace with Korea, of course, in the Bill Clinton or George Bush or Barack Obama years as well. But we could negotiate peace with North Korea right now. But there is a real threat that this could happen. And again, with all the war games say, use them or lose them. And nobody is willing to just say, well, fine, I'm just going to lose them then. What are we going to do? We're going to nuke cities and murder people? No way. You know, I don't think this is the plan anymore, Tom, but it was the plan in the late 50s and early 60s until Kennedy had it rewritten that if we go to war with Russia at all, we nuke every single city in Russia, in the Soviet Union and China, and that includes the entire Warsaw Pact. Now, all of Eastern Europe, all of Russia, and all of China get nuked off the face of the earth. And so Daniel Ellsberg asked, why China? If a car backfires in West Berlin and we nuke Beijing, what the hell is that? And they said, well, what are we going to do? Leave the world to China to inherit after us and Russia are all dead? Hell no. I mean, that's the people who run this country are absolute Hitlerian madmen. They are the worst people in the world. They are as evil as Tamerlane or Genghis Khan, Mao Zedong or Pol Pot or Adolf Hitler or any of the worst villains that have ever lived. That's the people who run the United States.
And their closest candidate is, as you say, neck and neck. And that's how awake the American public is.
Sure. And you know what? You gotta blame Trump for this too, because it's just like, do you remember in 2016, it was some interview where Hillary goes, "Why am I not ahead by 50 points? I don't understand it." It's like, well, yeah, because you're horrible. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing here with Trump. Why is Trump not ahead by 50 points? I mean, the guy, he's handsome enough, I guess. He's a TV star. He's over 6 feet tall. He's got $1 billion, giant skyscrapers. He's as Americana as the Golden Arches or a can of Coca-Cola. He's Donald freaking Trump. And he was already the president for 4 years. How is he not ahead by 70 points?
Yeah.
Running against Kamala Harris. And the answer is, Tom, that he's stupid and he's a bully and he's a jerk. And he has everything that he can to make people hate him for no reason. Taylor Swift endorsed Harris, and this could be the end of Trump right there. I don't know if you saw this. Taylor Swift linked in her Instagram, linked to the register to vote page at vote.register.gov or whatever, and hundreds of thousands of people registered to vote because she said she supported Harris. Now, that could be Trump's margin right there. But then how did he handle it? Do you know how he handled it? He wrote in all caps on Twitter, "I hate Taylor Swift." Right? Remember, like that time Ronald Reagan called Michael Jackson the N-word in 1984? Because that's how to make sure to win an election. Is he insane? And I don't even know a single song by her, but I do know from the news that she is like as powerful as Madonna at her height in the 80s, right? She is the biggest pop star, maybe in history. She's certainly like tied with Michael Jackson for biggest pop star ever in America. And instead of saying, "Oh, but Taylor, I love you, hun. I know you'd support me if you just got, understood my awesome tariff program," or whatever. He doesn't say that. Instead, he tweets in all capital letters, "I hate Taylor Swift." In other words, he is a crybaby. He is just the worst. How in the world could he be so inept? And in fact, how could he be so inept that he doesn't have a Hope Hicks standing next to him to prevent him from doing stuff like that? And by the way, like Taylor Swift, isn't she the pop star of white girls from the suburbs? Like, this is his constituency, is these girls' moms, right? Like, it's just insane for him to do that. It's insane, but that's who he is. He's just a bully, and he thinks that he could just push the whole world down and they'll just do what he says. Remember, Joe Rogan didn't even endorse Kennedy. Joe Rogan goes, "I kind of like what Kennedy has to say." And Trump goes, "Oh, I can't wait to see the crowd boo Joe Rogan the next time he goes to the UFC." And it's like, you idiot. Nobody's booing Donald Trump, Joe Rogan at the UFC, and certainly not because he said he liked Kennedy. Are you insane? And it's not that he's insane, but it's just that he is such a baby. He is just the worst little tiny bully. And I mean, look at how Harris bodied him in the debate. Imagine losing a debate to Kamala Harris because she goes, "Oh, your crowds aren't very big." And he's like, "Yes, they are too. I got the biggest crowds in the whole world." Wah. Meanwhile, why did she say that? She was dodging a question about the border. They asked her about the border. And she goes, "Well, I got bigger crowds than him." And he falls for it. Because that's who he is. Why isn't he ahead by 70 points? Because he's terrible. That's why. He could lose this election to the most inept and unqualified idiot to run since in my entire lifetime. I mean, she makes Joe Biden look like Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I know. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating beyond belief because I sit here and I told this story. You're going to hate this story. You're going to hate it. but when I was in college, the Kennedy School of Government, I already told this on the podcast, but in 1992, they had this program where, for educational purposes, they wanted to have mock presidential debates in some of the area schools. So they auditioned students at the college to play the roles of George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Ross Perot. So, so I tried out to be George H.W. Bush because that's about where I was in 1992, philosophically.
Sure.
So I tried out for that, and I got it. I was the George H.W. Bush. And I'm telling you something, Scott, I killed these people in these debates. Absolutely every day. I mean, it was meant to be for education, but, I'm a competitive guy. I can't turn that knob off. And so they were telling me, the Ross Perot and Bill Clinton characters were telling me, you are a much better George H.W. Bush than the real George H.W. Bush.
Right.
And in those days, we just called him George Bush. But you're way better. And because I said, because I'm actually saying the things I would be yelling at the TV, And no, I'm not going to say, it has to be acknowledged that on some level, Trump does know what he's doing because he did get elected against all the odds. He did destroy the Bush family. I mean, he did accomplish things. That's his better instincts. But in terms of, I mean, he should be absolutely demolishing this woman. Certainly in his one chance at a debate, he should be demolishing her and not just having people say, well, she either she won or it was indeterminate. There's no reason for that. So I guess my point was that it's frustrating because I'm sitting there thinking, look, if you just said this would knock her out. And then if you said that, or if you just kept hammering away at these key things, that would just knock her out.
If he just came out there and was cool instead of a baby, right? He's like, he's all hunched over, and they maybe did this to him on purpose. The microphone is really low and he's really tall. So he's all hunched over. He looks all angry. And, he could have just done a sound check, stood up straight and made sure, And then, but instead of like walking in there like, yeah, man, I'm the richest, most famous, most talented guy in the world, blah, blah, blah. Everybody loves me, wants to be me, or they hate me because they hate me. And look at me, man. And like, ha, you're running this lady, huh? Like, and he's funny, like when he's in a good mood, he cracks all kinds of jokes up at the thing when he's giving a speech and whatever. That's all he had to do was smile and be cool and be funny. She's terrible. Right? Like, he didn't beat Biden in the first debate. Biden beat himself. All Trump had to do was sit there and shut the hell up and let Biden talk. And that's all he had to do was know going in there that Biden's terrible. Biden's going to be terrible. He's going to do terrible. And I'm going to do great. And just be positive. And instead, he just walks in there like he's terrified of her. And he's aggressive and mean and bullying. And he's like essentially ceding to her that she's a real competitor. When his attitude should have been, yeah, come on. Everybody knows I got this in the bag and for all these great reasons too, and whatever. Just be positive about it. And it's funny because I'm not a Trump guy, and I've never been a Trump supporter this whole time. But I am just so against the Democrats right now that like grading on the curve, I'm like more than rooting for him. Like I might even, it's real. I can't vote for him, but I'm absolutely rooting for him to crush her, and I'm going to be devastated if the damn Democrats win this thing. It is just, and for him to be blowing it, at the rate that he is, in the situation that he's in, it's just unforgivable. I mean, if he loses, it is on him. They can try to rig it within a couple of percentage points or whatever, but he ought to beat her by 10 million votes. It shouldn't even be close. And she's probably going to win the the popular vote. So it's like, can he win the electoral college only kind of thing, when he should be absolutely demolishing her off of the face of the earth right now. So it's just, I got this thing, man. I can just picture it. God and the devil making a bet, cracking a joke. Like, these people need Ron Paul so bad. Like, well, maybe we'll give him Rand. Nah, you know what we'll do? Let's give him Donald Trump. And it's like this huge practical joke to see what America does with this. We need, because he is rogue. People say they hate him. And it's so strange to me. Like, does someone have to explain out loud that look, he is him and he's terrible, but they are they. Wall Street, the CIA, the arms manufacturers, pharma, agriculture, like the Combine, man, Big Brother is with the other side. So like, yeah, he's a jerk, but he's like alone. He's got Israel backing him, but nobody else. And no other faction in America supports him. So like, that should be the thing that you like about him. The thing that you should hate about her is not about her, but it's that this is who the CIA wants to win. This is who the FBI wants to win. This is who Ukraine and NATO and, all these European countries, that we're paying their way. This is who they all want to win. That's why we should be against. It's like people can't even figure that out for themselves. Like they're really just voting between two personalities rather than between power factions. Like they don't even recognize that that's what makes Trump Trump, is that he's not really a Republican Party member at all, is he? He never was. And I don't know. It's just frustrating to see grown adults just go right along with this. Like,
and the thing is, when you don't, they insist that you're the brainwashed one. You. Because you won't go along with what? Every single talking point that's fed to you by the TV, and I'm the brainwashed one? Okay.
Yeah, seriously. And I always think of this, and this comes up every election, I guess. But I remember in 2004, I had this couple in my cab, and I was saying, so who are you guys going to vote for? And they go, it's really hard to decide between Bush and Kerry. I mean, pretty much I like them both. They were both saying this, basically. Pretty much we like them both. One promises this, the other promises that, And then I, of course, just start screaming my head off at them that, well, one of them just lied you into a war 1 year ago. But you don't mind that, right? And like, look, John Kerry's the worst. Of course, John Kerry's the worst. He's literally skull and bones 1 year ahead of W. Bush. He's no different from W. Bush whatsoever. But all he did was vote for the thing. Bush launched an illegal, aggressive war that he did not have to start at all by any way. And he lied to you and your mom to make you afraid, to make you support the war. But you don't resent that? You don't think that he must be punished for that? That he must not be rewarded with a second term after doing that? Not to the Iraqis, but to us. Lying us into war. And you know what they said to me, Tom? Both of them. They go, oh, yeah. I guess that does make sense, huh? What? I just got to carry a truncheon around and just beat people in the head to get them to think for a second. Like, you ought to resent the guy who told you that Saddam was going to give Osama a nuke and blow up your town. You must hold a grudge against him. Please. Huh?
Yeah.
Same thing here, dude. You don't have a grudge against the Democrats? They got us at war with Russia right now. You don't mind that? I got to tell you, hey, it's probably pretty bad the way they got us in a war with Russia, right? Like, maybe you should think about voting based on that. I don't know. Like, oh, geez, I don't know, but I don't know. Trump sent abortion back to the States. I'm pretty sure that's my issue this year, Scott, not whether we're going to have a nuclear war or not.
I know. I hear you. I had some more Ukraine stuff, but I don't want to do it. I'm going to wait for your book, and we'll talk about it then. The world needed your frustration there. That's what the world needed.
Once I start talking about the Democrats, man, I just, in my mind's eye right here, I just got Waco burning always right here. It never goes away. And I hate them so much. I'll never get over it.
Well, look, what can we do in the meantime? We want people to be informed about when your book comes out, but if they stay listening to the Tom Woods Show, they will know. They will not trust you. They can trust me that they will find that out. But ScottHorton.org, LibertarianInstitute.org is where Scott does so much important work. I sit on the board of the Libertarian Institute. You guys are putting out fantastic books, doing great work on a shoestring. Unlike these huge foundations with their $500 million annual budget or whatever, and the president is riding around in a limousine. You don't have to worry about that. Scott has a boat, but I think That's his one luxury, and I think you bought it from like Craigslist or something.
$1,000.
$1,000 for Scott's
10
boat.
years ago.
Okay. Now
Yeah, that was great, man. You guys come back anytime. That was a fun time.
That was a fun time. And what was great was I never get to go out on a boat, and we went for barbecue.
I love Kenya too. She's such a sweet lady.
I have the best wife in the world.
Great.
And she was so thrilled to have a chance to go out on that boat. And then we boated over to that barbecue restaurant and, tied up the boat, went in and ate. And maybe this is like normal for some people, but not for me. That was a lot of fun.
Cool, man. Well, I'm glad you had a good time with that. I love hanging out with you, man. Always have. And hey, by the way, everybody, you want to hang out with me? The Tom Woods Cruise is coming up this February.
Oh, thank you for that plug, Scott. Yes, Scott is going to be there. And even if you're not a night owl, it'll be great. But if you're a night person like me, and you combine that with Scott, we'll just talk until nobody can breathe anymore because they're so tired. Scott, at least the last time he did a cruise with me, went so above and beyond for everybody. So above and beyond. Would talk to anybody who wanted to talk, answer any question you want to have answered, and be up until 3 a.m, whatever. I'm not promising he'll be up till 3 a.m. I'm just saying he brings a lot of energy and verve to this event. So I do hope we'll see you on board. TomWoodsCruise.com is
we
the
had
website.
So much fun last time.
Oh, it was beyond great. It was so fun. I remember I think it was Jamaica. You and I went ziplining.
Yeah.
And every zip line you would end, and there would be another person ready to hook you on to the next zip line. And you were, you hadn't vacationed in a long time, and you were in such good spirit. Like you were chatting it up with every single zip line person. It was unbelievable. But I also remember we were in line, and you and I were talking, and you were a typical Scott Horton. It was like, unfortunately, I was cursing like a drunken sailor. And finally, one of the parents nearby said, "Hey, can you ixnay on the, whatever?" Okay.
We were talking about taking magic mushrooms or something.
Oh, I was not talking about that.
But I might have been telling you a mushroom.
You were
stories.
denouncing the usual bad guys and all that. And it was oh my gosh. All right. Anyway.
Fun times.
LibertarianInstitute.org. Check that out. TomWoodsCruise.com. And Scott, looking forward to the next time we'll have you on when I am also holding up a copy of Provoked. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Make yourself and those you love less vulnerable to the regime, both mentally and physically. Get more forbidden information at tomsfreebooks.com and be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. See you next time.
Like the sound of The Tom Woods Show? My audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.